Welcome to the Parenting Power Podcast, supporting parents with the real-life tools they need to raise the confident, interdependent people the world needs. Gail Bell and Julie Friedman-Smith interview experts who share their knowledge to assist parents in creating a home environment where kids can thrive.
Welcome to the Parenting Power Podcast. I'm Julie Friedman-Smith.
And I'm Gail Bell.
I'll begin by telling you about our guest today. Beryl McNeill strongly believes that mutual respect and understanding go a long way toward resolving family law matters. As a registered collaborative law practitioner in Calgary, she has dedicated her firm to amicable cooperative negotiation as a means for settling divorces. Throughout her law career, Beryl has seen the costs of adversarial negotiations, both financial and emotional. In emphasizing the collaborative approach, Beryl offers her clients a more efficient model that preserves personal and monetary assets alike. Clients say that even after a single consultation with Beryl, they feel less stressed and more clear about the way forward. Since coming to Alberta in 1996 and opening her first practice, Beryl has supported many clients. In 2012, Beryl established the McNeill Family Law Office so that she could concentrate her practice on assisting couples to divorce amicably and constructively without the destruction that often accompanies a traditional separation or divorce. Beryl is very active with the family bar and the collaborative law community. Her involvement provides her clients with assurance that she has her finger on the pulse of family law in Alberta, offering them a distinct advantage in their quest for equity and civility. Thank you for joining us today, Beryl.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me. Beryl, we're so pleased that you're here to let families know about the collaborative divorce practice so that they can use that information or even share it with friends when necessary. Can you tell us a bit about how the collaborative practice can help to minimize that toxic stress that children often feel during the divorce process?
Yes, collaborative practice is focused on having a solution-oriented result for clients and parents, and it's focused on minimizing the negative impact that can happen when people separate and divorce. And what's fundamentally different between collaborative practice and the traditional model of divorce is that the traditional model is an adversarial model, and it's based on the rules of court and the court system, which is an attack-defend model. So what's fundamentally different in collaborative practice, collaborative lawyers are trained in a non-adversarial model, which is more of a mediation model, and focused on using a negotiation that focuses on clients' hopes, objectives, which is specifically every family wants to make sure that their children aren't damaged by a divorce, right? So how do we insulate our child from the divorce? How do we restructure our family in a way that's not going to negatively impact our child? So many people have heard of the horror stories of a divorce that's gone on and on in the traditional style divorce where the parents are fighting and it takes years and years for resolution. And there's ongoing conflict that's occurring as a result between the parents, and that impacts the child. And how we use the term toxic stress that can occur in that situation is the ongoing conflict and even the parenting structure that may be going on creates an adverse childhood experience for that child. Ongoing, what we know about toxic stress for children is that it changes the way a child's brain wires in their childhood development, and which has negative long-term impact and prognosis for the child in the future in terms of likelihood of having greater addiction, greater health problems, etc. So with collaborative practice, we're at the very beginning saying, okay, this is your objective. Everybody that is working with them, working with the couple wants to get their objectives, wants to help the couple de-escalate conflict and give them as much information as they can, for example, regarding different parenting plans, different resources that are available to them to help them restructure their family. And that assists, of course, starts getting the parents focused on, okay, I might not like my former partner, but I do need to do this for my children. I need to figure out a way to restructure this in a way that's not going to be damaging to my child, and find out the information that I can get that will support our child as we restructure our family. So what I appreciate about Parenting Power is the work you do with families in terms of it is sort of an ongoing process. You just don't have, you try something out and it might not be working, so you need to adjust it a little bit and you try something. And also children change over time, right? There can be different needs. And a couple who's been in conflict, it helps to have someone that is sort of coaching you through that the transition and remembering what your goals and objectives are.
That makes a lot of sense. And you're right, at Parenting Power, we always say there's not one right way to parent. And what we're hearing you say, Beryl, is there's also not one right way to move in separate ways as a family, that it can work. So how does a family choose to go this route? How does that happen?
What I would encourage families to do is look up the Collaborative Divorce website. We have Collaborative Divorce Alberta Association, CDAA, and it has information regarding the trained professionals in your area. And often people don't think that a collaborative, if it's called collaborative practice or collaborative divorce, they don't often think they don't need lawyers, and they actually do need lawyers. There's a legal component to this, that you have to sort things out, and you need to sort it out in a different way than the traditional, that would be my submission. Sorting it out in a way that's not an attack-defend model is healthier for the family. And so if you look up your professionals in your area, you'll see the collaborative lawyers that are trained. Now, it is a different training that the lawyers have to do. It's additional training. There's a significant mediation training and what we call interest-based negotiation training, which is the model that we use for collaborative divorce, which is not the attack-defend negotiation model. It's a model saying, okay, what are your hopes? What are your objectives? And the lawyers are hearing, okay, these are the client's objectives, and then the lawyer has an obligation to say, okay, this is what the law is in terms of the structures you're working with and what you need to know. So you're doing this in a smart way that fits within the legal parameters. And then given that, what are your options for resolution? And often with the parenting part of that, we have family systems therapists that are trained in the collaborative model that they can see and get referred to. And we call them child specialists, collaboratively trained child specialists and divorce coaches. And their function is really just that the interim in terms of, okay, as we're looking at this legal component of getting your parenting plan in place, having their assistance to set things up during your divorce process so we get it done. They're also listed as collaborative professionals on the collaborative website. So it is a distinct training, and I would say be aware that some people say, yeah, I'm collaborative, and lawyers that haven't done the training just think, well, I am collaborative. But the truth is you're still having to work within the parameters of the rules of court and a system which is an attack-defend system. So collaborative lawyers actually sign a contract committing to not going to court. If the negotiation fails, you have other lawyers that would do the litigation. And the reason for that is to create a safe container for the clients to be able to really be honest with their hopes, objectives, and have the lawyers help them sort through the legal component. And if it breaks down, those lawyers aren't going to be in the future cross-examining the couple, right?
Right.
It sounds like it's set up really, really well. One question that's popping into my head as you're talking about this is, what if one of the partners wants to head for that attack system of divorce, the typical one that we see, and the other is feeling, no, they really would like to approach it from a collaborative way? Can that happen, or once it's started down the attack pathway, can you veer from that pathway? How does that work?
Well, basically, people have to agree to negotiate, right? So if someone does decide to do court applications or even use a lawyer that's more of a traditional lawyer who is used to doing more of an adversarial negotiation, there isn't anything that a parent can do, like if the other person wants to do it differently. My experience has been over time, like first of all, the sooner you see someone early, so if you're thinking your spouse is going down that path and they haven't retained that person yet, or even if maybe they've retained it, kind of an adversarial lawyer, is to perhaps see someone that's a family systems therapist, like a collaborative counselor. It has to be someone that knows the distinction, right? Has seen the differences in how things play out, and to give them the information in terms of what happens if you go down this path. How's that going to be looking? Someone needs to be, I think, just getting both spouses in a place where if you play it out, this isn't good for either person emotionally or financially, because it takes longer to get the divorce negotiated in a adversarial negotiation, and therefore it costs more money, and it creates more emotional cost in terms of time in getting resolution, and sometimes permanent damage to your children. So there is solid social science on the ongoing conflict in divorce can create adverse lifelong effects on your children.
Right. Wow. So it sounds like something well worth considering if either partner is of interest of trying to get the other spouse in to at least take a look at what the options are.
Yeah, very much. Even if it's, I have seen people say, well, if I was thinking of this person that was referred by the real estate lawyer, so it's just a traditionally trained lawyer. What I try to do at the beginning is, here's information on collaborative, share it. Please go have them look at the website. If someone starts thinking about this and trying to get themselves out of the emotional part, because when you're going through divorce, you're going through natural stages of grief, which is deep shock, denial, anger, and depression, acceptance. And so that's normal. Yeah. And how you can get out of that is getting some assistance with that, right? Say, okay, what are your objectives here? And whether whoever that might be, if it might be a pastor or any sort of third party that sort of has worked with families, that can sort of say, what are your goals here, right, in long term? Now, I realize you're really frustrated and you've been betrayed, or right,
and all those emotions.
Yes. What might we do to start looking at, okay, this is going to play forward. What's step one in terms of how you're going to look at this? And to a certain extent, they have to get through their emotion, right, and the assistance of that to just work through their emotion, which is normal.
But even the word collaborative just presents itself as such a more positive thing for everyone moving forward, even if you're experiencing those negative emotions.
Definitely, my experience when you have people that are going through deep grief stage, the adversarial model just makes it worse. It's like at any time in our traditional model, a statement of claim for divorce can be filed, then there's a disclosure motion, or even if there isn't a disclosure motion, if someone says, oh, well, we'll do this without going to court, it's letter writing, and often the language, it just escalates the conflict. It doesn't decrease the conflict. And so with collaborative practice, we actually are trained in decreasing conflict. We've worked with family systems therapists that are trained. They know the social science on separation, divorce. There's dysfunction that's going on. It's like, how can we decrease conflict and help this couple restructure? That's very much, part of the coaching realm, and the child specialist realm is very much, this is what we know about different parenting plans, different ages and stages that can work in the parenting plan. And given this information, what do you want to do about it? There isn't any of that kind of language going on in an attack defend model. If you're using a child specialist in the traditional model, you're using them to evaluate what's going on, to do a child custody report, to say, okay, this is what's going on with this parent, this is what's going on with this parent, and this is the evaluation, and judge, what do you want to do with this?
So it just sounds like overall there is so much judging going on in that one model versus noticing what people are looking for and moving towards a solution in a collaborative.
And helping them, giving them some resources, so on a foregoing basis, you don't have to go to a judge to make a decision every time you have to do something with your child. Because the fact is you're going to be co-parenting. And so how do we learn to co-parent and without being in ongoing conflict? It's going to be a learning process for them. And to have some assistance with that is critical. And a judge can't do that for them, right? That's not the judge's role. The judge's role is to say, based on the information, the evidence I have, based on the child custody report I have, this is what I'm saying is going to happen. And you see, in situations where people have to go there, they keep having to go back to the court. Or there's also something called a parenting coordinator who will make a decision. But what a way to live, where you have to continue to go back to someone else to make the decisions for you. So way better to early on not dig yourself into the conflict and try to get education on, okay, I may not like my spouse, and what can I do to make sure we can move forward with this and get as much information as I can as possible so that we can restructure, we can actually figure out a way to co-parent without having ongoing conflict and without having our child feel like when they're getting married 20 years from now that they can't invite you both to their wedding because there's just so much bad blood between the two of you.
Wow. Beryl, speaking with you today has been really educational, and I just want to let anybody and everybody I know about this, so it's fantastic. And thank you for taking the time to do the podcast with us, because this is one more way we can get this information out to people in case they don't know. If listeners want to find out more information from you, where actually is the best place for them to follow you?
You can look at my website, which is mcneillfamilylaw.ca. And if you want more information about collaborative divorce in Alberta, you can go to collaborativepractice.ca.
So valuable, Beryl. It seems so hopeful. The topic of divorce is not one that is generally talked about with a smile, and yet every time Gail and I have a chance to talk with you about this, I walk away feeling like there's a ray of sunshine over it. There's some hope. It doesn't have to be this tearing things down. It can be, as the word that you often use, is restructuring. And so it feels like things can be built, but built differently instead of being ripped apart. It's just lovely to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for spreading the word and the work that you do with families as well. We're on the same page in terms of trying to educate and empower families, right? So
you bet.
Thank you.
Thanks, Beryl.